Welcome to episode 8 of New Money Talks.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We got another one going.
Let's do it. We got a little bit of a change of scenery here. I don't know if we probably won't even get into that because we got a lot to talk about today. But we're joined by our good friend Matt. He's an up and coming real estate mogul here in New Jersey. Amongst doing many other ventures, and so we're just here to pick his brain a little bit, have a conversation. I think everyone who's listening, wherever you're listening or watching from, you're going to get a lot of value out of this. So. I guess we'd be doing you a disservice if we tried even to attempt to intro you, not knowing you as well as you know you.
Exactly.
So if you want to just give a quick, maybe 2-3 minute intro on just kind of who you are, how you got to where you are now and where you're headed, that'd be cool.
Okay, awesome. Yes, my name is Matt Myles. I'm a real estate agent out of Hoboken, New Jersey. I'm currently living in Jersey City, which is actually right next door. It's a very similar market. It's a very young area. It's on the waterfront just across from Manhattan. I like it here. It's extremely social, and it's a great place to live as a 23-year-old guy. I graduated from the University of Delaware when I was 22 in 2021 with a degree in international business and economics with a minor in French. Don't quiz me. Don't quiz me because I forgot a lot of it. So that's a little bit of my background. I have a sports background as well. I played football and baseball in high school, all throughout my childhood as well. I was recruited to play football at a bunch of small schools like Franklin and Marshall, Dickinson, Gettysburg, like those schools out in PA. I was recruited to play. Unfortunately, I had a tear in my kicking leg. I was a kicker on the football team, and that held me back a lot. So I think the reason I say that is because I've taken this competitive spirit with me,
of course,
everywhere I go. And I've also learned just be a team player in life. When you're good to other people, the world tends to give you things tenfold right back to you. So I try to keep that value of contribution always open in my life. I guess just a little bit about my mind and how it works is I like to continue to grow in all ways all the time.
For sure.
So that's an all-encompassing version of me and where I'm at right now.
So how long have you been doing real estate as a realtor and everything? How long has that been? How many years have you been doing it for?
So I've only been selling real estate for 2 years actually. Coming up on 2 years. So I started at the top of the new year in 2021. Right as I was about to graduate college. So I only had a couple credits left in my final semester. So I figured fuck it. Instead of delivering pizzas and making $2,000 by the end of the year, I was let me just get a 6-month jump start
for sure
on my career. So in those final 6 months of college, when I was barely able to drink, I got 3 listings, and I think I sold 2 of them, and then did one buyer deal in that time as well.
Oh yeah.
So
that's huge.
Yeah. I didn't know a lot of my friends who were doing anything with themselves at that time. So, the ego starts to feel really good at that time.
you realize cashing the checks.
Yeah. And luckily they go through. But you realize real quick to just keep your ego in check and, just be humble.
That makes sense. I think it was kind of funny because on the way here, Kyle was telling me some story of how you got into the whole real estate world and everything about walking a dog and stuff like that. I didn't hear the full story. I'd love to hear the full story from you. And
sure.
I think it's people will be oh shoot, that's a way I can actually get into this world, right? So I'd love to hear the story.
Seizing opportunity.
Yeah, seizing opportunity.
So part of it was coincidence. Part of it was right place at the right time. And then also, obviously, to be in the right place, you have to take some initiative to get there in the first place. So you have to have an outcome in order to get lucky, right? People say the harder I work, the luckier I get. You know that. So pretty much how it all started for me is I took an entrepreneurship class, and I'm going really back to where my mind had this idea of all right, I can create things and show up for myself rather than just having to show up for somebody else. So I took an entrepreneurship class. I think it was my first semester of my junior year at Delaware. That's University of Delaware, not Del State. And had that entrepreneurship class.
Is that Dutch weather? What the hell is Delaware? Hens, blue hens, right?
Yeah, it's the blue hens.
Blue hens.
Just have to clarify.
Yeah.
So I took this entrepreneurship class, and they had us just journaling all these ideas. We had an idea notebook. We had to go out and create a business out of thin air, and then the best business proposition would get some funding from the school actually to begin it. So that's where the creative mind started, and I started thinking all my friends are looking to get like these finance jobs. They're looking to do stuff that like they don't really want to do. And I know that they don't want to do it, but like, and they do too, but they're still going to do it. And I'm like, I just don't want to live my life like that. I want to sort of take over control. And then you realize that like people will pay you for services if you're not technically like employed, right?
For sure.
If you're the employer. So I started thinking that way. And then I started realizing like, all right, what's a way that I can get into this with like not having to hold inventory, not having to like build brick and mortar, not having to have extreme graphic design background. And then I just figured out like, all right, real estate might be like a good way to go. So I started talking to just some people, like some neighbors that I knew from home and like my friends' parents. And I talked to like this one guy. His name was Sean, and Sean worked out of like Maplewood in New Jersey. So he told me about how he like doubled his business 5 years in a row. So from like, he went from like 50 to 100 to 2 to like 4 to a million or something like that in like 5 years. And I'm like, that's unbelievable. I'm like, I was ready for like a 5% pay raise a year. And I was like, gonna be cool with that. So I started like, I've always had this hustler spirit. So that was the seed that planted in my mind of like, all right, Matt, you can do this. Cause after talking to him for about 2 hours, he was like, yeah, you definitely have potential here, based on like what I shared with him. So I was just like, always had this hustler spirit. And I decided like, let me just start with the class, right? So the class takes about 4 months. And during that time, I'm like, let me do something with my life, like rather than just school, because I had a lot of free time. So I started walking dogs. Like I found this guy and he had a bunch of clients. I think he had like 85 clients or something like that. And they were consistent too. And there was only 2 dog walkers at the company. And then he did like boarding. So I got pretty much half those people and it became like a full-time job really quickly. And this is why I say right place, right time. So one of the clients, I won't share his name, but he's actually the #1 producing agent in all of Hudson County. And I don't say that with hyperbole. I can show you the numbers. He is at least 50% higher than like the next highest person. It's pretty crazy. That's in terms of volume and units. So
you were just walking dogs and you met this guy.
Yeah.
Literally with the leash and everything down the block.
And his dog was one of them. And one day I just asked him, I was like, yo, can I talk to you for like an hour about what you do? Like I hear that you build buildings and you're a killer and you're a great negotiator. I just want to learn from you. So I ended up sitting down with him for about an hour or two and he told me what to do. He said, get into this coaching program, go to this company and prospect all the time. Just always search for the next opportunity. And yeah, January 2021, I started doing that and that's took me to where I am. I stayed committed to it and here we are 2 years later.
Yeah, how was that like middle of like, I mean, that was center of COVID. I guess how did that influence either your performance or like going into the market and I guess learning from people who now had to reteach you how to do things in different ways? Did that negatively, positively impact things? Like, tell me more about that.
It's a good question, actually, because I entered the market obviously in a time where things were selling really quickly. There's not a lot of homes on the market. And then also properties were selling way above the asking price that they were. So it's a completely abnormal market. We've never really seen an average of like 20 to 30% over asking. We've never seen that. It's a huge outlier. So I entered at a time that was like Candyland almost.
Literally,
and like
agents, they love
my God.
Cash offers left and right. It was good stuff. Yeah.
So what I was training to do fit in perfectly with the market because as a buyer's agent, it sucks. Imagine competing against like 10 to 12 people at a time. Yeah. Like it's crazy. So it's like what you said about the e-commerce earlier, right? Like there's so much competition there and the profit margins are so low. That's what it was like for buyer's agents. Like you'd send in 15 offers and get 1 accepted. So I was practicing prospecting and getting listings, being the guy who's in control. And as a listing agent, it was just amazing. Like you got a listing and offers came in within a matter of hours sometimes. Wow. Literally. Like not in my case, I never had a property sell in a day, but I know plenty of people that did. So I was practicing like the right skills at that time. And like those are translatable for a sustainable real estate career too. It's not just for a good market. Anybody who has the listings think about it, they're technically controlling the market. Like you're adding inventory to the market by being the listing agent.
Definitely.
So yeah, so that's what I've been practicing.
So what does your day-to-day look like? Like when you say prospecting, like what does that mean, right? Because like I know a lot of people watching this are like, own agencies, like do something in business, right? So there's a lot of sales involved, right? So prospecting, I'm assuming is a lot of like, it's a sales job in a sense, right? A lot of that type of stuff. Like walk us through like what does that mean to prospect all day? Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
Yeah. So prospecting, like I just like to look at it as digging through the gold mine. It's pretty simple. All I'm doing is I'm calling people and I'm sending out emails. Like the main method of prospecting for me is phone calls because we're humans. We need to connect voice to voice, face to face, right?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of like technological influence, which has made our lives so much easier to communicate across this massive globe that we have. But in reality, people are going to make decisions and put their trust and money into who they know, they like, and they trust.
Makes sense.
So the more you can develop good rapport with people and prove that you're their real estate resource, the more business you're probably going to get. So yeah, I'm pretty much just making a lot of phone calls, and the people that I'm calling there's a few different main sources. So I'd probably break it down to like 4 main sources. So the first one is for sale by owners. That's like people who list their house on Zillow, or like they're not trying to go through an agent. You call them, there's like one set of questions and a certain dialogue that you have to use with them. There's expired listings. That's the second group, expired and cancels. So like people who listed with Kyle and didn't end up selling, right? Like Kyle can't sell for shit.
Coming at Kyle.
So like, yeah, someone who listed with someone else and like they couldn't end up selling, you call them and see if they still want to sell.
Yeah.
Third group is like your center of influence. So like friends, like I would call you guys. You guys are on the list. Fourth thing is like just listed, just sold calls. So that's pretty much just like calling around neighborhoods and being like, hey, we just sold this property nearby. What are you thinking? You want to sell?
Out of the 4, which is the best? Like, what do you see the most results in?
Yeah. So it depends if you're looking for like the fastest results or like the easiest, least painful results. Right? Like the fastest results are going to be for sale by owners, but they're painful. And the reason that it's the fastest is because they're telling you outright that like they're motivated to sell, or at least that they want to. Sometimes they're not motivated, but they at least want to because they have their listing up.
Yeah.
The most profitable way to do it though, and the way that you actually build a sustainable real estate business as an agent, is you build a massive database. So your center of influence, as I was mentioning, that's your database. That's your gold mine. People always say that. So you really want to nurture those people the most, but it's going to take a long time, but they'll send you referrals because they know you, like you, and trust you.
That makes sense. Yeah. How did you and Kyle meet originally?
Actually, through social media.
Social media.
Social media.
You were looking for a unit, right?
Yeah. You know what? I saw a TikTok. I saw a TikTok surrounding, I think, this building.
Okay.
And it was the only TikTok because I was looking to see people who actually lived in it because it was still under construction. So there's these like breathtaking views of the pool online, and I'm like,
this building's nice as hell.
Oh, it's nice as fuck. And I'm like, there's no way this exists in New Jersey, right? So I come here, we're like looking around, everything's like, you know, most of that stuff was 3D renderings, like Photoshop, all these things, but it's actually what it looks like now for the most part. But I'm just like, dude, there's no way this exists. So I'm like looking on TikTok, and I'm like, dude, I gotta look hashtag, you know, I'm like, I won't say the place name, but I look it up, and I'm like. And then I saw one that was like, oh, you know, I tried moving in and they postponed my move-in date and none of the amenities are open and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I left a comment. I was like, do you mind if I just send you a quick message? Like just kind of asking you like who I can get in contact with, because it was impossible to reach anyone at the time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I get like a comment and then like a DM, and we ended up connecting. He's like, oh yeah, I actually like list, you know, some of the units here. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's make it happen. You know? We came here, toured it, like it was sick. And I was just like, I was just getting, I was leaving the Modern. I was leaving my previous apartment in New Jersey that was like tallest residential property in New Jersey, crazy amenities, like insanely expensive, thought nothing could top it. I come here and I'm like, yeah, this might top it, you know? Seriously? It's crazy. You know, we were just chopping it up. We were kind of talking more as boys than like a transactional relationship where we were looking at properties.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because like you're the same age as we are. And usually when you think of like real estate agent, this type of thing,
like 30s,
like 30, 40, 50 old, like old white guy type of thing.
You want to know what the average agent is, the average demographic? It's a 55-year-old white woman.
There you go.
White woman, yeah. Wow. So like 60% of agents are women actually, and 40% are men.
Makes sense.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm in like the bottom, 3%, 4%?
Seriously. I'm actually curious, like, do you think it's harder or easier because you're young and like active? Like, is that like, good for you or bad for you?
Or that you're a male versus a female?
Yeah.
Run through all that. I'm curious.
Yeah. So think about it. Like, there is a competitive advantage from knowing more people. Okay. So think about it. Like, I'm young. I've just simply had less time to meet people. So my database is smaller. And the people that are in my database are older than me. And a lot of the time, like, how do older people look down on younger
Especially
people
when they're
in
buying a
business?
house. Yeah, when they're buying a house. Yeah.
It's a lot of the time it's people's most valuable asset. So connecting with older individuals like my friend's parents, specifically, and just like people that I'm door knocking, right? Like there's this initial reaction of like, can I trust this person? They're young, like they're unproven. So there's a disadvantage there, but I think that there is a huge advantage in being young because I have a shit ton of energy.
Yeah, no, you
Like,
do. Yeah.
I have a lot more energy than someone who's been burnt out for the past 25 years. And honestly, I'm happy that I'm not at the point yet where I'm holding like 15 to 20 listings at a time because that's a lot to manage. And like, how can you really, you got to be on your game to serve all 20 of those clients at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that like of where I'm at right now. Obviously I'm going to get there and I'm going to figure out a way to be great at that point. But it's all about building that database. So there is an advantage in being a social person, but there's also an advantage in being
an older person.
Because a lot of the
more
times,
time,
think about it. People had careers before they were real estate agents. So they had time to establish this professional rapport already, which I'm starting from scratch.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And look, I'm 2 years out of being like a fraternity guy. Right? so like there's these stereotypes that like I have to work through so that people realize like, yes, I am a professional, even though I'm young.
For sure. For sure.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is what's your secret opener when it comes to cold calls?
Yeah, what the hell do you say on the phone? Because that's always
hey, this is a cold call. You know, hey John, just wanted to let you know this is a cold call. Like, you know, would you be opposed to give me 30 seconds to break the ice? Like what do you do?
Yeah. So you don't do that. you try not to ask for like consent to go into your script because nobody wants to be called. Nobody wants to be cold called, right? Even if you're expecting it, right? Like people just have their guard up all the time. So what's their reaction going to be? Hey Kyle, it's Matt Myles from Liberty Realty. I just want to ask, is it all right if I ask you a couple questions for 30 seconds?
No.
Call's over. So you don't do it, right? Like, you want me to like do it quick?
I just want to hear like what's the first sentence you?
It depends who I'm talking to.
Okay.
It depends who I'm talking to.
Say somebody who did like the listing without an agent, like like someone like that, right?
For sale by on.
Yeah, for sale by on. Like, okay, what are you doing?
Ring ring.
Hello?
Hey, I'm looking for Kyle.
This is him?
Hey Kyle, it's Matt Myles from Liberty Realty. Should I beep this out? Hey Kyle, it's blank from blank. And I'm just calling because I noticed that you have a house listed for sale without a real estate agent right now. And I'm doing a quick survey of a few of the for sale by owners right now. And I'm just curious, if you sold this home, where would you go to next? So like, that's how I would start.
I like that.
Yeah,
push them to a question too. Like
they're getting because we do a lot of sales as well. So it's like, you know, it's skipping the nitty gritty, getting to like the desired outcome. Like where do you see yourself in a year? Like, where's your dream home? Because it's probably not here, dirty Jersey.
That's actually kind of funny. So like my go-to, I'll give some sauce for people doing sales. When I hop on a call, my go-to is where are you calling me from? Honestly, it's like the best thing I ever do because like I can make like a 10-minute conversation just about like where they're calling me from. Like, oh, you're from Georgia, great. Oh, I have a client from Georgia. Like I've been to Georgia.
Or everyone's been to New York City. We're right by New York City.
Right by New York City. So it's like doing that, like you build a rapport really, really quickly. Even like with you, like you ask that question, like they're not going to say, hey, like they probably sometimes say, hey, I don't screw off. Like, I don't want to talk to you. But if they do answer that question, you're probably locked in for a good like 20, 30 minutes.
And then there's a good like dialogue that I follow after that as well. And it's all just like logical progression to a close. Like that's all it really is, right?
So, well, walk us through like how like a real estate agent makes money, right? So like how do you make money? Like obviously like I guess if you sell a house for somebody, you make money, but like you're doing like a lot of like rentals and stuff like that. So just like walk us through what that looks like.
So there's different methods to it. Like everyone knows that there's two sides of, I guess not everybody might know, but there's two sides to every transaction.
There you go.
And on the rental side, there's a landlord's agent and there's a tenant's agent. On the buying and selling side, there is a buyer's agent and a seller's agent or listing agent for better terms. And how does a real estate agent make money? So I'll just walk you through my process of getting a listing and selling it and putting money into my bank account. So I prospect, I set the appointment with that person, and I say, and I have a listing presentation that I pretty much used for every single person. It's perfectly canned. And I'm off a script the whole time, but it's all in my head. So you don't know it because I practice it, I memorize it, I write it so that it doesn't seem like it's canned. So pretty much I set the appointment, I go, and together we figure out, I sort of like, I prime them for the CMA, the comparative market analysis. And the purpose of a comparative market analysis is just to determine the value of their home in the eyes of the buyer. So at that point, after I say that sentence right there, I'd say, do you know how buyers determine value? That was part of my script.
Oh, interesting.
So we determine the value of their home, and if they feel comfortable and confident that I can sell the house, they sign an exclusive right to sell. Once I get that, we begin the marketing plan. So what we'll do is, the first thing we'll do is we'll get a lockbox on the property. We'll get a professional photographer to come out, either take videos, floor plans, photos, whatever the house needs.
You pay for this or they pay for this?
Yeah, I pay for this out of my pocket, but it's like if you're doing the full package, like you want aerial footage, you want a walkthrough video, you want some photos, some floor plans. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much
like drone and all that.
Yeah, you can do drone
too?
shots.
That's
Like
cool,
that whole package right there will cost you like $300 to $400.
Oh, that's
so if like consider getting a $10,000 commission check, it's like you got to lay the money out up front, but it's 3% of the money you're going to get. So it's like it's not a big deal. You cut your losses. Sometimes you pay for that stuff, and then the listing expires, and you're like, shit, I lost $300. But if you have a good company, they'll pay you back for it. So you're there, and at that point, showings begin. I put the property on the MLS, the multiple listing service. Other agents have the opportunity to see that listing and request a showing. They bring their buyers, and in a perfect world, the buyer and the agent submit an offer together. That gets sent to me as the listing agent. I talk it over with my seller, say we want to accept it, go through the whole sales process right there. And there's just inspections and the appraisal that happen at that point. And then pretty much at the end of that process, once you got all the paperwork from the town, the title work is done, the attorneys have done their job, and it's all legal, you can close. At closing, there's a HUD statement, HUD, and that states all the numbers that come out. So the attorney fee, the agent fee, the transfer tax, all those numbers. And then the title company holds all the money in escrow. And then once the property officially closes and the deed is transferred, the money is sent from the title company, like, I won't say any names, but there's one that I love to use. They're really good. And they send the money to my company, and then my company takes their share, and then I get my share, and then it's direct deposit and I get paid.
Interesting. Yeah. It's actually amazing because like I just learned a shit ton from the whole entire thing. Yeah,
cool. How long does that process usually take typically?
Yeah.
If you need to sell it all.
So the thing that takes the most time is the lender processing or the bank processing the loan. So the majority of properties in this area are purchased with mortgages, or loan, same thing. And that'll usually take about 30 days from the beginning of the transaction to a mortgage commitment, which is, a mortgage commitment is pretty much when you start the closing phase of the transaction. So 30 days there, but then there's some other due diligence stuff, and people take their time with stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Paperwork getting emailed takes 4 days sometimes for whatever reason. But again, it depends who you work with. Some people are a lot faster than others. So about 45 days total from acceptance to getting paid.
I have a question about mortgages.
Sure.
What the hell does pre-approval mean, and how the hell does that work? 'Cause I know that's like a big thing, because like a lot of houses in New Jersey, New York have been selling a lot.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, like be pre-approved before you go see the
Same thing with like
property.
car loans, you know? Like pre-approval. Like
Probably, yeah. Like
they just, it's usually, you explain it.
no, somebody explain.
I mean,
like, I'm
like
curious.
same thing with credit cards. It's like, you know, they'll usually, based off of the credit information that they have available, they'll just say, hey, you know, you have a really damn good chance of like getting approved from this. So we're going to send you a pre-approval.
But how do they know how expensive the property is going to be that you want to buy? Like that's the part that I don't get.
Don't they do it for specific properties?
You can. So there's general pre-approvals, but there's also like a specific pre-approval for a certain property.
I see.
It's like it's 123 Main Street. You send them the listing. Or I don't even know if people send them the listing, to be honest, but you just got to give them like the purchase price and the address. At that point, they take all your documents. So like if you're a W-2 employee, they'll take your W-2s. I'll actually go back to that in a second, but they'll take all your documents. They'll take like your 1099s, how much you have in your bank accounts, how much you're willing to put down on the property. Cause you can put down anywhere from like 3.5% to 100%. You can pay it. You can buy it cash. So the amount that people are putting down is actually getting lower and lower. So pretty much at that time, once they have all your information and they know how much the house is, they can let you know if you're approved for it and how much you could afford to put down. And they run your credit as well. So it's all back end work. You could hook you up with a lender and he could explain it in more depth. But pretty much run your credit and find your information, see how much money you have.
For sure.
That's it.
That's cool.
And so if you do get a pre-approval, like what's the likelihood of you getting approved? Almost 100%.
Yeah. I mean, if you have enough money,
because they're still checking all those other things. So they're saying like, oh, like, I mean, do they do that based off of income? Do they do that mostly based off credit, I would assume? Yeah,
credit usually affects your rate. Income affects like how much you can put down.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, at least. That's what I understand.
For sure. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, 100%. It is. So by the way, just another thought on getting pre-approved for a loan. So if you're a W-2 employee, you just need to have, to my understanding, you just need to either have been making income for, I think it was like 3 months, or just have like an offer letter. They want to know that your income is guaranteed and it's not going anywhere in the future. Don't quote me on like those.
They hate us entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So us 1099ers, we
real estate agent, right?
Yes.
W-2.
Yeah. So side thought, if I don't work, I don't get paid. I make $0. Literally $0. There's no salary as a real estate agent. And if you are getting a salary as a real estate agent, your commission split is probably in the pooper. So
interesting.
Don't take a job. Like you'll literally be getting like 20% or 30% of the gross commission versus like 60 to 80 at like at a company that's not paying you salary.
Yeah.
So, all those companies that are going bankrupt right now, and you know who I'm talking about, like the Redfins and the Open Doors. So the online, the iBuying stuff, like those are the ones who salary some agents. And they pretty much, they bend them over and they take all their money. For
lack of better words, yeah.
Jeez. So what happens to someone like, was it 10?
Yeah, you need to have 2 years of tax returns in order to qualify for a loan. Well, unless you're going to do like a non-QM, which is like a non-qualified mortgage.
That's like no tax documents, whatever, right? QM.
Yeah, sometimes.
It
depends
like that,
on the lender. It's kind of sketchy, but it's legal.
That's like 2008 type of thing, right? Like before the housing crisis.
There were a lot of those, like
no doc loans and stuff like that.
Subprime loans, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm a senior in college right now. I'm not actually. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically. My brother's a junior.
You look like one.
Yeah. My brother's a junior in college right now. He's like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. Let's say he wants to get into real estate. Obviously there's a lot of different verticals that you can get into when you're young that don't require as much experience, like, things like wholesaling or whatever it might be. Walk me through the process. He doesn't have a real estate license. He wants to get into it. Give me estimated timeline of what you think it would take to get the license. And then what you think the easiest point of entry is to get into, which is oftentimes the hardest thing to actually succeed at. But just walk me through what you think someone who's junior in college right now, they were back in your shoes, and fastest track to get to somewhere that has a lot of upside.
Okay, good. So you're going to start, like, it doesn't matter what course you take, because to be frank, National Association of Realtors, stop listening. That shit that they teach you on the test does not matter. Yeah. Like, and you're not going to remember any of it. I just remember what an easement is, and it's when a property's fucking split. That's it. And there were 120 questions. So
was the test hard?
No, you just have to memorize questions. You just have to memorize answers. It's the same stuff. If you have a good course, they'll give you the right questions.
Yeah.
So you're going to find a course. You can literally just look up New Jersey real estate licensing exam, or any state, wherever you are. Or even like Caribbean islands, like they have licenses for anywhere. You could go to France and get one if you wanted to. So you're going to look that up. Usually the courses, some expedited courses are like 4 to 5 weeks, and other mainstream courses are like 8 hours a week for like 8 weeks to 10 weeks. So just about like a month to 2.5 months. After that happens, you're going to take the test. That'll probably take you another week and a half to schedule.
How much does that cost?
The course is usually going to cost like $200 to $400. That's the entire thing. And then I believe that the state test and like fingerprinting costs another like $150 or like $200.
It's like $500-600 all.
Yeah, that's just about $500 to $600.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, just do that in the middle of college.
That's your barrier to entry, $500. Yeah. So if you have $500, you can get a real estate license. You just got to be breathing too.
Have half a brain.
Yeah. Literally, that's what we say. Like anybody who like walks and breathes can be an agent.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do that, and then once you pass the test, you'll pass on your first try. You're gonna hook up with a brokerage, and you have to hang your license with the brokerage. Once you hang it with the brokerage, you can start doing real estate sales. So you can take a listing the next day.
Interesting.
As long as your documents are all good to go.
And you think the agent route is superior to something like wholesaling or like something of that nature?
So honestly, I don't have enough experience in wholesaling to speak on that.
Yeah.
That's stuff they post like on Instagram,
Like TikTok,
right?
Instagram,
Do they post a lot about wholesaling?
Yeah, guys in their 20s that are like, you can be a wholesaler. Just go through my $300 course, right? And I'll show you how to have no money down. But like, to my understanding, there's a lot of risk involved with that, because you're essentially saying, hey, I'm going to buy your property, and then you're trying to sell it to someone else. And there's a window where maybe a grace period where if you actually don't go through with it, you can either give it back, maybe you have to forfeit it. Yeah.
So you're selling.
You're selling the right to. It's almost like in the stock market, like when you get an option, you're like buying the right to get someone else's share. I'm probably explaining that horribly wrong, but you're basically buying the right to purchase the property and then selling it to someone else.
Yeah. People they call it flipping a contract.
Okay.
So there's a certain demographic or group of individuals in the Jersey City area that are very popular in this industry. They do a lot of it. They own a lot of real estate, but they also wholesale a lot of real estate. And pretty much who wholesaling is for, and like the people that they target, is people who have either like dilapidated properties that are either difficult to sell, or people who are maybe will go into a short sale or be foreclosed. Someone who's in a desperate situation and needs the money quickly. So the advantage of wholesaling is like you can get your money within like 15 days. Because because with wholesaling, what these people do is like they'll lock the contract down. They'll say, I'm going to buy your house for $1.1 million. And
even if they might be broke.
Yeah. And they, like, that person who has that contract is going to sign it and pretty much write on that contract that I'm going to purchase it for this much, but I'm able to assign it to another buyer. Like it's an assignable contract. And in typical real estate sales, you can't, there actually is a clause that says you can't assign this. And if you want to assign it, you have to cross that out and write it in the extra notes. So in wholesaling, that would be like for a normal real estate agent transaction. For wholesaling, you make it assignable. And then what they do is they have a database of investors who just have a boatload of cash sitting around and they're looking for properties like this at a discount. So let's say that property that me, little 21-year-old college kid, is going to like write a contract on is actually worth $1.4 million.
You got it for 1.1.
Yeah, I signed the contract, let's say for 1.1. Like this would be a really, really good deal if you're making this much money on it. I'm just doing it for sake of numbers. You're going to flip that contract to another investor for like 1.25. So the investor is getting a good deal because he's getting it below market value. And I'm getting a good deal because I'm just literally taking, and what happens at closing is you literally take that cash, you take that 150 cash, and that's how you make money wholesaling, right? So they get their money quickly, the wholesaler makes the difference, and the investor gets a property below market value. So you try to find that sweet spot between like, how can I make money in the middle of the number that the investor is willing to pay versus the number that the seller is willing to sell it for?
Interesting. Sounds complicated. Sounds like you can like lose your shirt too. Because what if you don't find another buyer?
Yeah, that's the big question is what happens when you don't find someone.
Cancel the contract.
So that's where it's like a little bit
penalties or
no, it's not, because there's some sort of clause in there that's like it's a protection clause.
Like you're going through due diligence.
So there's not technically there's not like huge amount of risk in initiating a contract.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that there's no penalty for canceling it if you can't find a buyer.
This is why New Money Talks is good, because like we're going into like crazy topics. Like
I didn't anticipate talking about wholesaling.
No, me neither, honestly. Like I was saying, I think it was told before, one of our last guests was like an exotic car rental company, which we knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And like we knew some stuff about real estate, but like not diving deep like this. So it's like, I'm sure people listening have no clue either, which is like, this is what we're trying to do. Find like young people who are killing in the game, who are like excited about what the hell they're doing and like want to teach other people. So like, this is sick.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like what you do?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question. Do I have to answer honestly?
He hit that off the dome too. That was good.
Dude,
answer it honestly.
God.
Yeah.
Wow. How much do I like what I do? You have to
be a little crazy.
You have to really search for like the meaning and the vision in being a real estate agent. There's a lot of people who are very selfish. It's kind of like solar sales, where like you can make a lot of money and there's no risk for you as the salesman. You get your money. You don't have to take care of the client later on. You don't have to. All you have to do is make the sale and you get paid and you walk out. So it's very easy to be selfish in an industry where you can get paid a lot of money, at least compared to other jobs. It's like you can get paid $15,000 in your pocket as an 18-year-old kid just because your dad's friend has a house somewhere in like wherever, right? And you can just list it, have somebody else come and do the showing and sell it. And the attorneys in New Jersey do a lot of the transaction after it's closed. Like you can make a lot of money by not doing that much work. And like, I'm humble enough to admit that, right? Like some transactions are harder than others, but the easy ones, dude, sometimes I feel like I'm cheating a system. I'm like, why am I getting paid for this? But then you really think about it and you're like, okay, what did I actually do throughout this transaction? Like this person has no idea how to sell a home. It's easy for me because I'm practicing it. So I guess that's why it feels like you're kind of like...
Feels like free money.
Yeah, it feels like free money sometimes. But to them, I'm providing such a massive service because like and I'm such a small sample size, but there's 2 years of experience behind this. And it's like it's very easy like to do a basic transaction.
For
so
sure.
I'm providing massive value to this person and it's one of their largest assets. So, and oftentimes agents actually make people more money than they can make on their own. Statistically, for sale by owners sell for about 86% to 90% of what the average listed property sells for.
Wow.
So if you're paying even a 6% commission, which is like used to be normal, and now people consider that high because of all these like commission cutting companies.
This is all of his pitch too. When he sits down, like this is why you need a listing agent.
So you're still making your money back. Like we talked about wholesaling, you're trying to find that gap, and you have to like try to portray to people that like oftentimes the agent is able to bridge that gap, and it can be a win-win for both parties. But sometimes it can feel like all I'm doing is pursuing financial goals. Like I have goals of like just vagabonding, just going away and just fucking traveling the world, right? And just backpacking. And then you also think about starting other businesses, and you think about like doing different things with yourself. So how much do I like it? I don't think I can give you an answer on the scale of 1 to 10, but
No?
try to analyze it. Like
On a ballpark
I'm sure
range?
some days you like it, some days you don't
yes,
like it.
that's why it's so difficult.
yeah.
That's why it's so difficult because like literally some days I wake up and I'm jazzed, and some days I'm like, this sucks. But I think it all goes back to your mindset. Like the way that you focus on something is the way that you're going to perceive it, no matter what.
For
It's
sure.
perspective,
Yeah, it's all perspective.
Yeah. Are we allowed to ask you what's like one of the biggest deals you've ever done?
Yeah. So I had in my first year, actually, I think it was August. So I was like 8 months into being an agent. I had a listing for $975,000. It was a 6-family.
Couldn't have been 25,000 more.
Yeah, right.
Wait.
Oh.
I was actually, and then when I talk about working from anywhere, this is what I'm talking about. I was actually in Vegas, like after I got the listing, because I was at a real estate convention, and 2 offers came in at that time. Real estate convention.
He's all about the education guy. All about
Networking,
There was a little bit of fun involved.
for sure.
After hours.
Yeah.
So offers came in at that time, and I actually bid up, or I guess they bid up. I didn't really do much.
We had a little
Bid against
bidding
each
war-
other.
bidding
Yeah.
war over there,
Yeah. And we got it up to $1,010,000. So closed that, and then I think that commission for the company was $25,000, and then I take my cut out of that, so I made about like $18,000.
Not a bad trip to Las Vegas.
Yeah, it was like in my pocket at the end of the day.
Hell yeah.
That was a pretty good deal.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
That one felt good.
For
That one
sure,
felt
for
good.
sure.
That was in my first year too, so
Yeah.
Definitely.
that was nice.
More of those on the way.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of deal to work on? Like multifamily, apartments, like commercial? Like what do you like to do?
I like condos. You know what? I actually like single families more, but condos is my second favorite because the less moving pieces that are involved, the easier the transaction is going to be. And especially in a market like this, where like that's Hoboken, that's my market.
Check out
We're
this
looking-
view. Yeah, it's nuts.
We're looking at my market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of condos that it's like a 1-bedroom with a good view, and it'll go for like $700,000, right? So in an amenity building. So it's like if you're doing that versus selling a multifamily in Northern Burgundy, Northern Hudson County, right? And you're buying that for $750, right? It's the same amount of effort, or it's the same amount of money at the end of the day, but there's a lot more effort that happens because just in business in general, not just in my business and not just yours, you guys can probably agree, the more people that are involved, the harder it's going to be to communicate.
Yeah, more units, more people, more utilities, all this type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always just try to like find ways to simplify, and like single family is often owner occupied. So they're there. It's easy to go meet with them and tour the property. You don't have to worry about them being in like Tennessee and being like, oh, the code to the house is this, but the security alarm is this, and shut it off when you go in. It's usually a much more simple transaction. And typically people who own single family real estate, especially in like higher end markets, are a little bit more sophisticated. So hopefully sometimes you wish that they're, you pray that they are like more emotionally mature as well, if they're financially mature. So it just makes it easier when tough times come to have hard conversations with someone who has a level head on their shoulders.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like you're just selling a property, right? Like obviously people are attached to it because like they've been there for 25, 30 years, but it's like at the end of the day, you're selling a house, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a big transaction, but it's just, again, just a transaction.
That's right.
Especially on your end, you're just like, look, like I do this all day. So it's like, you're not attached to it for the most part, probably.
Exactly.
But these people are sometimes.
Yeah. Helping people detach from the emotions of owning and selling their property is difficult sometimes, but like that's where the therapist and the practical psychology comes in of this, right? Like you have to understand why people do things and what needs are not being met when they're feeling a certain way. And you have to also understand that like a lot of the times when people act out, it's just because they're fearful. Like they're fearful of not being enough personally, or they're fearful of not being loved or not being taken care of. Like there is something driving that. And when you simply understand that, it makes your speech patterns a lot easier with those people. You just have to pick up on patterns, and it's a lot easier to deal with people at that time.
Yeah, that's good.
If that makes sense to you guys.
That does. Yeah, for sure.
So professional athlete aside, if you had to make a career change,
you ain't going to the NFL.
Well, I mean, it would be easy to be a high jumper, but
it's coming at them.
Professional athlete aside, if you had to make a career change, what would it be?
YouTube travel blogger.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's sick.
And I'm going to do that. And when I do go on trips, I actually do make videos every once in a while, but haven't posted them on YouTube, but I have a few in the bank.
I always tell myself I'm going to like record more than I will, or like I'll make TikToks when I go, and then and then I just don't, because it's like, it's work while you're there. You know, people don't think about it, but you got to set shit up. You got to you got to like strategize what you're actually going to do. And it's like, while you want to be enjoying what you're doing. So, but you can also, once you get good at it, once you get a couple of reps in, kind of like this podcast was a bitch to set up. There was so many moving parts, so many tech developments. It still is a little bit, but it's getting a lot smoother to where we plug things in and we just have a conversation. But it doesn't start that way. So I feel like it's the same thing with that. It's the same thing with e-commerce, any business. It's like you start off eating shit, and then over time you get used to it. So I can imagine, I have friends that are like vloggers, that are YouTubers, etc. And like it starts as a day job. They're figuring it out, and then they're just having fun with it. And they're like, they forget they make money from it sometimes.
Yeah, because it's such a passion.
Yeah,
that's funny you say that about like forgetting to do it when you go places, because I find that sometimes it's a lot more gratifying in the moment to like to live in the present when you're there. But then you go home and you're like, oh, I have no content.
Yeah, you're like, fuck.
I didn't take any pictures.
It's a double-edged sword. I didn't get my goal accomplished, but like I got my spiritual goal accomplished. It's like sometimes you got to sacrifice no matter what you're doing.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's about like spaced repetition, like you said. Like you need to go hard sometimes, and then when you feel like you need to relax, you relax. And it's like I see it as like this infinity where like you're always going or like some people call it a pendulum, but like infinity just like makes more sense to me. You like go through one wave and then you come back to the other phase, and you keep going like that.
That's kind of interesting, because like I used to feel like real estate, you kind of have a lot of autonomy, right? Where like you can control kind of your day to day for the most part. So like right now, if you wanted to say go to Bali, could you just go and still work?
Yeah, like
is anyone bothering you about that?
No, I have no boss. Like I have a broker, but a broker is not like a typical boss where they're telling you what to do, or like they're giving you certain goals to accomplish. Every single thing that happens in my business is generated from here. So whether I'm prospecting or whether I'm traveling the world, it all comes from a decision that happens inside my head.
Interesting.
Right? That's
You're pretty much an entrepreneur in a sense, right? Like you are, right? There's
definitely
nothing around that. You run your own, I guess, real estate business in a sense. Yeah. Obviously, you work for like another realty company. Eventually, I'm sure you'll open up your own. That's kind of cool though. I haven't thought of it like
it's
that.
kind of like when we brought on John. So John was he was our last guest. He's involved in like luxury car exotic rental companies. He couldn't do what he does without banks, without like loans and creating these partnerships. So it's not that he works for the bank, but he leverages them as a partner to make sure it's like part of the vehicle to be able to achieve what he's doing.
Exactly.
And real estate agents who do have a lot of business, like let's say someone who's selling like 150 properties a year, right? And they're bringing in like, it's just around like two and a half.
It's like one every other day.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's a very small handful of people who do that. Like I can count those people on one hand, at least in the Hudson County market that I'm in. In New Jersey, there's probably about like, I don't know, 30 or 40 people who do that. So it's like very slim out of 60,000 agents to give that perspective.
There's 60,000 in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
60,000 in Jersey.
Wow,
crazy?
that's a lot.
You know how many are in New York?
Huh?
Do you know how many are in New York?
In New York? Find out.
Hundreds of thousands.
No, I don't know. I can't remember, dude. I did learn this at one point because New York has California has the highest density or population of agents, and then New York has like the highest density of agents. But I can't remember the number. That's a good question.
It's probably fucked.
But that's why turnover is so high, because think about like, I think that there was like 100,000, somewhere around 100,000 transactions in New Jersey last year. So there's only about a transaction and a half per agent. Like if you're not that great, it's like hard to eat. You know, it's hard to eat. That means like, so last year, interesting statistic across the country, the average agent, I think it was 51% of agents did not do a single deal last year in 2021.
So how are you going to live? How do you live?
They don't. They drop out.
You got a second
The
job.
turnover rate is about 80% of new agents drop out within a year. And then it's like 96% or 97% drop out in like 5 years. Yeah.
That's like all businesses, honestly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's why you got to have thick skin. That's why I pat myself on the back sometimes. I'm like,
You've been here for 2 years, right?
Yeah, I've been here for 2 years. Like I didn't quit. You know, I've gone through times where it's been a little bit more difficult than other times, right? And I've gone 4 months without getting paid. But then again, I've had quarters where I've made my friend's salary. And it's like you go through like these ups and downs, and I'm not exaggerating. Like I've made $0 in a quarter before. It sucks. But then you have to have the thick skin to be able to stick it out, and that's why you have to constantly practice these skills.
You also got to be good at managing your money, though.
That's the fact,
right? Because if you say you make like, I don't know, 70K in a quarter, 100K in a quarter, then you have a quarter of zero. You have to be good with, and also you're paying taxes after the fact, right? Because like you're 1099, so like you're paying tax in April, right? So you have to make sure you can budget your stuff out.
So I'm going to give a tip actually to anyone who wants to be a real estate agent. If in terms of your finances and being good with managing your money, what you want to do is you want to pay quarterly taxes. So keep a report of how much you're earning every quarter and pay quarterly taxes to the IRS. Not everybody does that. But as you make more and more money, that's gonna
lighten the blow.
Disincentivize them, sort of lighten the blow. You kind of just space it out, but disincentivize them to come after you, like if they see you're paying. So also, if you're not going to do that, what you should do is just have a separate tax account, like usually bank accounts have like 3 or 4 separate sections.
Like sub accounts.
Sub accounts. So what you're going to want to do, and like the way that I split up my money is like 25% personal, 35% business, 25% taxes, and then it's 10% for saving up for a down payment. I think I missed 5%. Somewhere in there.
5% for
that could be. Do you think that could be interchangeable with someone who maybe doesn't want a home with, like, let's say your investment?
Investments or savings. I think 10 to 15% is a comfortable amount to do that. But the most important thing is, I think, set aside, at least in New Jersey, you're going to want to set aside like 25 to 30% for taxes, because you're paying Medicare out of your pocket, you're paying Social Security out of your pocket, and all the taxes that come with just
what does it go towards? Who the fuck knows? NASA? No, definitely not the potholes in the roads. They're fucked in New Jersey.
Why do we have no say about it? I don't know, but hope everybody voted.
That's a different podcast.
Pod Save America.
New politics talk, something like that.
Oh my God.
It's
the one industry I've never worked in.
But new money talks, I think it's even more relevant to, talk about keeping money and budgeting it, because we're all about not blowing it, because we've been through the cycles of, or at least I've been through the cycles of just spending money stupidly, and it eats, I was going to say it eats you in the ass.
I mean, if you like that.
It bites you in the ass, later down the road. And then you...
People are laughing. The
government eats
If
your
you're not
ass.
laughing, you're crazy.
That's where it goes to.
Yeah, I hope you're laughing listening. This is New Money Talks. We might have to make like a comedy sideshow on this thing. But no, I mean, it's, I think one thing, if you're listening, that you got to take away is, make money, keep money. It's about making it, but it's also about because you can be, the Jordan Belfort and you can say, yeah, I made 70 grand last month and the guy wants to work for you. But if you spent 80 and then you keep that habit thinking it's going to keep coming in, sometimes it doesn't come in, and you got to keep it. You got to hold on to it tight and just don't buy stupid shit. Like, focus on what is actually fulfilling you and focus on like what you need like first, stack up. And then when you can buy 10 of them, then you could buy one of them,
That's I like that. If you could buy 10, then you buy one.
If you could buy one for you, your friend, and 2 other friends, then like, sure, then you can buy it, right? So like a car. Like, I bought a $50,000 car with like 40,000 in the bank.
I remember.
You know what I mean?
Yesterday.
Like, and I had just horrible financing terms on it. And like, I ended up refinancing later, getting my credit right, and like, and lowered it from like a 15% interest, 60% interest to like 4%. And like, that was like a $900 payment down to like a $300 payment. And like, it's little shit like that. If I held off for a year, focused on getting my credit right, I would have just paid fucking car in cash, saved up, made more money. And it's like that little thing, that car payment, that's not just $800. That's $800 plus $300 insurance. Yeah. That's $200 in gas. That's $200 in repairs. Yeah. That's most people's rent, right? So it's like, yeah, if you're listening, just be smart with your money. It's the biggest thing.
So would you agree that it's very important to keep your ego out of your money?
100%.
Yeah, and just out of your life in general.
Yeah.
100%. And what's also tough that I'll throw in is when you start to level up, you start to surround yourself with people who are already there. They're in a position you want to be at. And sometimes you do things based off the people in your environment because you like thinking that you're at that level. And it's great mentality wise, manifestation wise. But if someone's next to you, if they have $1 million in the bank and you have 50 grand in the bank, don't drop 10 grand on bottles at the club because they are, right? Let them pay for it. And then later down the road, you can pay them back when you've had a little bit more, right?
He's experienced it before.
Oh, I've experienced it. I love that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, because again, it's almost a double-edged sword. It's the dilemma because you want to surround yourself with people that are killing it. And sometimes you surround yourself with them to the point where, you're like, oh yeah, this is me. Like, I have $1 million in the bank, but you don't. And then you spend like you have $1 million in the bank because they are, but it's not affecting them as much as you are. You know what I mean? So, I haven't quite been through that phase, but I'm saying a lot of people go through that phase.
For sure. We see a lot of guys like buying bottles,
stupid
5K clubs for no reason, right? But I think it's kind of interesting because like you always want to be people who are ahead of you and better than you. And I actually think that if they're always ahead of you and better than you, you might not even get to the point where you have to pay for those bottles. Because like if you're always like trying to level up and just find like better people, more successful people, etc., like they won't even think to ask you to do that, right? And then,
or they'll be fighting over the tab.
And they'll be fighting over the tab.
I got it.
And then in reality, right? Like if everyone's successful in the room, they probably know that you only have 50K in your bank. You don't have $1 million. So like if they're on your side, they'll probably not be like, hey, yeah, you should pay the tab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like surround yourself with people who like can make you better, right? Yeah. And like think about it. If you're like the most successful person in your circle, you probably should be in a better circle, right? Yeah. Like you don't want to be the most successful person in your circle because then you're not getting better, you're not learning more, you're not improving, right? So like that's a big thing too, right? Like there's no reason to show off. You can show off when like you're 35 years old and you want to buy a yacht and you have kids and a family.
Dude, you can show off by saying I have 8 hours free a day. That's a flex.
Yeah.
Time is an
I get 8 hours of sleep.
Literally.
I'm healthy. I'm fit. Like I got a great relationship. You can flex in so many ways outside of how much can I spend at the club.
That's so beautiful. I completely agree with that. No, it's so great because like there's more than like I try to break my life down into like pillars. So I think that there's like 5 main pillars. Like there's obviously financial. I think there's spiritual. I think that there's family. I think that there's physical, and I'm forgetting the last one. But we can just call it 4, and that's perfectly fine. And you get.
Did you say financial?
Yeah, like you get the did I say family? I don't know.
You said family, financial, and
health,
emotional, and like and mental, and like health, and physical and mental health. So, God, like time is such an asset. And although a lot of people are trading their time for money, like even if they have more money than you, it doesn't matter because like you have all the time in the world.
Seriously.
Yeah, we spoke.
right?
We had another guest that has a little bit more in the bank than we do, and he was like, 28. He's like, I would give everything in the world to go back to when I was 23. Yeah.
See, although like you do have to plan for your future and sacrifice so that you can be financially set in the future, it's like I think a double-edged sword is such a great way to put it with just entrepreneurship in general, because there is like that sacrifice, but then there's also practicing being present and like meditating on where you're at right now, because like technically in life all we have is like right here.
Seriously,
Like, just like take a breath for a second and be like, that's all I have. It's like if this is gone, all this is gone. Nothing else matters if I don't have this breath and I don't have this heart beating.
And nothing else is guaranteed.
Oh my God, so true. And like you said about hanging out with people around you, if you're the best in the room, man, you're going to top out.
You are going
right?
to top out.
And you're going to stop. Your ambition is going to go away. Your ego is going to explode because you're going to be better at looking down on the people around you. And you're just not going to move forward if
for sure
you're the highest in the room.
Yeah, you got to get comfortable with feeling like the small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, no,
like
definitely.
like even in athletics, like I'm sure you probably weren't in, maybe you're in a big high school, I don't know.
Small.
I was right. So like I'm in a small high school too. Like we're killer athletes. You get to college, you get to D1, D2, you're nobody. You got to make a whole new name for yourself and level up. But you're going to get so much better in that college environment and in that D1 practice than you are in your high school practice where you're just like the star, getting all the girls, this, that. It's different. You kind of got the 3 levels. You got the high school, you got the college, and you got life.
You got life. Yeah, you got the whole world. Yeah. That's crazy.
And it's so important to push yourself out of your comfort zone too.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, man. The experiences that you have when you're doing things that are scary to you and the way that you grow from those experiences are exponential compared to just doing what you know, right? When you're confident enough to leave the emotional home that you always stay in, your life is going to change. And no, I'm not the hell? I'm not just talking. I just said, nah.
I think this is like the most like laughing podcast you've ever had.
And it's a good one.
I'm glad I'm bringing good energy.
Yeah.
See, I'm thirsty. I drink like 1.5 gallons of water a day. 16 ounces for 2 hours. Like, nah.
You can go fill up.
Oh, dude, I could fill up. They have. No, I think it's probably like plasticky. No one's probably around.
No one's touching that. I do have a question because we ask this a lot to a lot of people. Sure. Like you're big in real estate right now. You're doing a lot of stuff in there. I usually ask for like some sauce. So like give us like some sauce of like if you're an up and coming real estate guy right now, right? And like you want to like make a name for yourself, like get a little edge. Like
what's something you had to pay to learn that you can give away for free?
There you go. That's a good one.
Yo, can we do like a Jeopardy sign? Like, can you give me like 30 seconds? Oh my God. Schedule everything. It's okay to do whatever you want. So let me go back to something I said earlier. Time is your biggest asset. So whatever you want to get done in your day, I think it's perfectly fine to do it as long as it aligns with your goals and as long as you have it time blocked. Because if it's not time blocked, what you're going to do is you're going to end up pushing back all of your other responsibilities and procrastinate. We naturally have a tendency to procrastinate, especially like young people who probably like 85% of us have ADHD.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's very easy to get distracted. So as long as you can time block things, I think that you can get anything done. And also get a CRM, a customer relationship manager. I think that's what it stands for. You can't run a business off. I mean, you can, but it's difficult. It's hard to run a business off of your contact list on your cell phone. You're going to want to keep as much information about people as possible because although it's important to give them good information and be the source of value, something that makes them more connected to you is when you remember something about them. So take notes about people, pay attention to the things that people say to you, and have versatility, be able to speak to and interact positively with in a personal and business manner with all 4 personality types. Study people. I think that's the sum of what I'm saying.
No, for sure. That's huge.
I don't think enough people. I think people take for granted the relationships they have, and they don't extract enough out of it, or they don't like really keep tabs on people to the point where they're like, oh, that's Matt that I met at the apartment who told me those amazing stories. I want to reconnect with that person. Like you have to be very impressionable, but you also have to keep tabs on that person. If you don't follow up with them, if you don't have their Instagram, if you don't have their email, then they're just going to forget who you are.
Yeah, look, you just rented a place without me.
Hey, but I'm back here. But I'm back here.
Nah, I'm kidding, bro. There probably was no 8. You probably just went through the management company anyways, right?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. That's all right. Look, but like you said, like that's a lesson right there. Like, you know how many times it's happened? It's all good. It's my fault. I take full responsibility for it. And that's another tip too. Take responsibility for fucking everything, because the moment you do that, you keep all of your personal power. I think that's really important. Like, it's my fault that I wasn't in touch with you.
Yeah, well, I think this guy was also like he found me on some database or something like that, and he reached out to me. So he was kind of like prospecting me. He was like, "Hey, I saw that I didn't put in an application, but maybe I put in like maybe I did. It was either an application or like some pre-approval thing." Yeah. And he was like, basically like, "I found your contact. I see you're looking for a place in the area." He's like, "I'll hunt for a place for you." And I'm like, "Okay," because I mean, we can get more into this because I definitely want to understand how like being a real estate agent works in terms of like different locations and like specializations. Because to my understanding, like if I'm, like if I want to look at a property in Florida, can you be my like broker for that? And can you go and do all the hustling and all that stuff for, or is there like zones that you specialize in that you're like, I don't want to deal with that? Because that was the mentality that I was going through. I was like, all right, if this guy's already done transactions for this building, like if I knew that I could have gone through you, I would have called you up in a heartbeat and said, "Yo, like meet me over here."
Maybe you just assumed you can only do like Jersey City or something.
No, that's what I genuinely thought. That you might have zones that you're
Let me talk about
to.
this. We need to like make a short out of what I'm about to say.
Let's do it.
So that's really important. So you're asking about like, where can you work? Like, what's your jurisdiction as a real estate agent, pretty much? And where am I allowed to represent you versus where do I have to refer you? When you have a real estate license, you can only work within the state that you have the license in. Personally, I work a lot of different areas because I want to keep my options open. And like we talked about earlier, the sales process is the same and the rental process is the same, no matter where you are, especially when you're staying within a state. All the paperwork is the same. The only thing that's different is where my office is located and how far I have to drive to get to the location. Right? All the information is out there. And a lot of the times, so you guys would agree you want the most educated agent in the market that you're in, right? Like you want your agent to know the market, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with that. And all the information is out there on the MLSs. So I have access to 3 MLSs, not just one. Although my office is based out of Hoboken and I market myself as the Hoboken realtor, I'm working areas like, let's say I sold a property in Fairview. That's like Southern Bergen County. And I sold a property in Patterson. That's like Passaic County. Sold a property in Glen Ridge and in Montclair. That's Essex County. And then I worked with a buyer in Watchung last year. Yeah. Dude, so I'm like, I'm covering this radius. Like, I wish I could like cover it on a map right now and show you what it is. And the interesting thing is like the qualities and the skill set that I bring to a transaction as an agent doesn't change whether it's in Hoboken or in Watchung, because I go on the MLS and if you know the numbers to look for, there's like 5 key statistics that are really important that if you go back like 4 or 5 years in the MLS and you find those statistics for every year, you can understand the market. So if it's ever a new market, what I do is I'll go back like 4 to 5 years and I'll find all those stats and I'll be like, okay, these are the trends in the market. This is what happens. Learn about the school systems a little bit and figure out like what's so hot about that place. So you figure out that, and then it's like, I sort of look at that and I'm like, most of the agents who are in that market don't even know those numbers. And people would rather work with them just because their office is there. So it's like, you want to work with the most educated person, but be careful because your office location doesn't say that much about how educated you are on a specific location.
Oh, for sure.
If that makes sense.
You're a mess for not calling them.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if I was more educated on the concept of being able to just hit up a real estate agent and be like, hey, just
so many people have asked me this though. Like, I don't even think that was a good answer, but the point is like I can work all over New Jersey.
You pretty much you can.
Yeah, I can work all over New Jersey, and like obviously my preference is to rent the unit that's literally right above my apartment because I don't have to do any work. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing and eager to work with people in other areas as well.
For sure. Yes. So I got another question that kind of spins off that, because obviously some properties you have you have a realtor commission or a broker's fee.
Yeah.
Some properties you don't, right? So I'm assuming that's the building will create a partnership with the realtor, and the no commission deals is just them paying them out of pocket versus there being an additional on top of that, right? Do you know like why one, let's say, building would be incentivized to do no broker's fee versus a broker's fee?
So obviously, as a landlord, if you can offer no broker fee, it's more incentive for tenants. Therefore, you have more exposure on your property. But in a market like we're in right now, it's just typical for tenants to be paying the broker fee. And it's ebbs and flows. Like sometimes the tenants are paying the broker fee. Like right now, I've only seen about 2 listings in the past 3 months that have said no broker fee or landlord paying the broker fee. So that pretty much means that every single unit that's listed on the MLS is going to have a broker fee. So why do these big buildings pay out incentives to agents? It's because a lot of the times people, they spend most of their money on online marketing. So what are you going to do when you want an apartment? Google search 1-bedroom apartment in Jersey City under $3,000, or you're going to go on Zillow or those sites. And these companies like, I don't know, I'll use like the Vantage, for example. That's like, I think you looked at the Vantage, right? Like Exchange Place area. So it's a big building. I think there's like 1,000 units there. They're completely property managed. They're all rentals. So it's one big conglomerate which owns the building. And it's not like Maxwell Place in Hoboken, where each condo in the building is owned by an individual family or one owner. So what they'll do is they'll just market all these units, and let's say they get 10 people to come rent and 2 of them are represented by agents. Like let's say I think they're offering out like $2,000 to an agent right now. They only had to pay $4,000 in broker fees, and the tenant who was moving in didn't have to pay a dime. So you see where the incentive is right there. And the thing with that is that you are getting less exposure because the MLS is not included. And you also you don't have an agent marketing it for you. So no one's actively doing it. It's all passive. It's all out there and you're waiting, trusting that Zillow is going to get it to the right people. So the advantage of having it with an agent is there's more exposure. But I suppose if there was a disadvantage, it's that whether they go directly to the landlord or they go through a real estate agent for a listed property, there is a broker fee that has to be paid because of the exclusive right to rent that was signed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I didn't pay a broker's fee.
Yeah.
It was actually one of the reasons why I chose that property over others, because there was a property that was cheaper. I say property, a unit that was cheaper, that was closer to me. And it didn't have any amenities or anything, but it was like really cheap and it was huge. Like it was like 1,000 square feet for a 1-bedroom.
Wow.
For maybe huge. It's funny because it was like $2,350.
Wow.
And so crazy, really super nice, like very modern, just had like absolutely no amenities, like no view, nothing like that. Now, on top of that, there was a 1.5 months broker's fee. So it was like, it was something like 3.2 or 3.3. Wow. That I would have had to pay out of pocket. And then, so now you prorate.
Sorry, you're paying that 1.5 months?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So, and it's like, you'd think, okay, security deposit, sure. But they're hitting me up for a 1.5 month security deposit, 1.5 month broker's fee, plus first month's rent. I'm in fucking Italy, bro. First of all, I'm in Italy. So I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to come write you a handwritten check. Okay. Second of all, they want like $8,000 from me, like right out of pocket, three or something like that, which I'm not going to get back. Yeah. But you prorate that and you're like, that's an extra $300 a month. So you're like, okay, in reality, this is a $2,650 plus, let's say 100 parking, whatever. All right, it's still $3,000 at the end of the day. But yeah, so that was like a turn off for me. Plus the fact that they couldn't wait like 2 weeks for me to get back, and they were just like, these things were just flying off the shelves because they were cheap. By the time I got back, I'm like, oh, what units do you have left? It was like the worst 1-bedroom unit, and I had the sheet from before and I had the sheet from after. They actually increased the price between the time I was in Italy and not, or in Europe, right, in general, because I was in all different places. In 4 weeks, they took it from $2,350 to like $2,650. I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Well, the market's hot, you know what I mean?
But anyways, right?
So markets shift that fast.
So this guy reached out to me. He's like, all right, he's like, this building I think is really cool. This building's cool. So he gives me a list of multiple buildings, and he's like, what do you want? And I just explained it, and I was like, this is going to be really hard to find. And so then the next day he comes around, he's like, all right, I think I found something good. I'm like, all right, it's probably not what I'm looking for. Cause I was looking for like under 2,600, 1 bedroom, 1 bath with a somewhat of a city view with amenities. And somehow he came back to me with the property was like 2,550, right under. It was like, it's like top floor, city view, really nice amenities, brand new building, and no broker's fee. So I was like, okay. If he could have done the digging and I could have called you up and be like, yo, you show me
this out.
Yeah. So I want to ask you later on what the building is called, because I can find out if they're paying a broker fee or not. Sometimes, like a lot of these buildings,
they must be, right? Because why would he have any incentive to like call me back or text me or send me all the pictures, all this stuff?
That's what you would think. Not a lot of them do, believe it or not. So these guys right there, they're only paying a $1,000 broker fee. So after you're split with your company, it's like you
don't even get the whole 1,000.
Yeah.
Company
so
too.
A typical split in this market is like 60 to 70%. And if you're on a team, it's a little bit lower. And if the lead was provided to you, it's even lower. So like, let's say like the worst case scenario, let's say the building pays $1,000 and that guy, like the agent that you worked with, his team leader gave him the lead. That guy's going to take an extra like 10% or 15% off of the guy's already split. So he could be making like $500, then he's got to pay taxes. So he's making like $350. And then, it's like,
So it's the gas that it took for him to get here. Cause I think he might've been based out of Jersey City.
Oh yeah.
Damn, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. So that's why like when you pay a higher broker fee, personally, like what would you do? Like if you had a client, right? And there were 2 identical units and you could make $5,000 here and $1,000 here. $1,000. That sounds weird. $1,000 here.
Yeah, you push the 5K.
Of course. That's why like I love marketing this building, because it's like you can make so much more money for the same work, and this is a nicer building than those guys who are paying $1,000. So it's like it's a win for everybody.
Yeah,
for sure. So that's where the incentive would be, especially people who buildings that are brand new are typically the ones that pay the highest broker fees because they want to get rented and they want to pay back their investors like as fast as they can.
That makes sense.
So that's why they're willing to like give out a month free and like pay out a month broker fee as well. But also it leads to financial trouble sometimes, as you could imagine. But
Yeah. This was awesome though. Like I'm happy kind of started this on to like
this is great.
Get someone like new money talks, new real estate talks, you know.
Yeah, I'm not done with the conversation. I got a couple more questions.
I'm hungry, bro.
I'm hungry too. We're going to a little Italian place after. Give me 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. Give me
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't even know what time it is. This fucking watch doesn't even have the numbers, and it's 1,000 on the watch.
8:30.
Wow. So one of my questions, because I'm always very fascinated on how people's upbringings influenced kind of where they are, I guess where they are now or where they're headed in life. Because I know, like personally, I think both of our situations where we had parents that either did well or that didn't do well, and the kind of the way that we were raised influenced kind of maybe the path that we took and our motivation to do things, either to be better than them or to be able to provide for them, whatever it might be. So I guess if you don't mind sharing a little bit, like, what do you think in terms of maybe like your parents' occupations or the way that you were raised and the friends that you had and just in general your upbringing and kind of how you were raised, how that might have influenced what you're doing today?
It's a great question. And like I said, I'm an open book, so I'm going to share as much as I can with you.
Sure.
Right? If it's too much, cut me off. Right?
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're good. This is uncensored.
Yeah. So let me just think about like my upbringing. So I guess like I'll just start talking and then something will probably pop up. Sure. So when I lived in Teaneck, like northern Jersey, Bergen County. I lived there from the time I was born to the time that I was like 3.5, I believe, or 4.5. And then we moved to Glen Ridge. So Teaneck is like a very, very diverse town. Like there's a lot of like Hasidic Jewish people. There's a big Black population there. There's a big Hispanic population. It's very diverse. So, and the school systems like weren't that great there. So my parents wanted to get me into like a better school system. So we ended up moving to Glen Ridge. They bought a house there and then they got divorced like right away. Oh my God. It was such a traumatic thing for me when I was a kid because I was literally 4 years old and like all I was told was that like mom wasn't going to be there anymore or like you weren't going to see mom as much.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're staying in this house and you're 4, like you're terrified. You're like, where's she going? So that was like the first moment where I realized like fear can really take you over. And like I didn't realize it when I was 4, but when I started like doing some introspective stuff, like when I was in my teens, I started realizing like that memory of like my mom leaving, not even leaving, like sorry mom, like I don't mean to like paint this in a bad way, but that feeling of like my parents getting divorced and like not knowing how to handle it as a child, like I realized like you're not as in control of your life as you think you are. And like external events are going to happen. And what I realized at that time, and through other events as well, like depressive and like panic episodes when I was like 10 or 11, like that was really, really tough to deal with. Like I went through like depression and anxiety when I was in, I don't know, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Like that's when it really started to get bad. So I had to like start going to therapy and like working through all that stuff. And I'm so open with this because like I found such amazing ways to cope with it, and to like find more love for yourself so that these feelings sort of like they're less intensified, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when it's like Tony Robbins, who I was just with for about 4 days down in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah,
You were with Tony Robbins 4 days?
Yeah.
That's sick.
14 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Dude, it was crazy.
That must have been
I was
fun.
sleeping like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. It was like,
Wow.
It was insane. I was like so sleep deprived, I was so out of it. So Tony Robbins said like, whenever you have a monster, is it easier to kill a baby monster or is it easier to kill King Kong or like a dragon, right? So I feel like it's the same thing with like mental health issues. It's like the sooner you can acknowledge them and realize that like, oh, maybe I am having a problem here. Like these episodes of sadness that I'm having, like maybe they're not random. Like maybe there's something going on here. And do you want better? Like maybe I can even fix this. Like maybe there's something I can do about it. So like when you take initiative and as a 15-year-old kid and you tell your parents like, I want to go to therapy. They're like, for what? Like, I'm not right. Like I need to feel better. When you take initiative and you pretty much conquer your mind by the time you're like 17 or 18, like you feel like the world is in your hands. And you're like, if I can do that, something that totally used to take control of me in the past, and now I have full control over or more control over, you're like, you start applying that to different areas of your life. Like you apply it to your fitness and you apply it to your business. So I think to tie it into my finances and my career decision, those were some things that affected me as a very young child, which are obviously always in the back of my mind. I'm never going to forget them. And I think that like the lingering effects, you work with them, you don't get rid of them. I think those things help push me and motivate me to be better at my career and always step up for myself, like rather than having to step up for somebody else. Like I mentioned earlier, I think that's something that really drives me in life.
I'm glad I fucking asked that question.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question.
I hope you got some good shorts out of that.
That was solid.
I mean, listen, there's so many people on the other side of this listening that are like experiencing the same shit and we don't talk about it. But as entrepreneurs, you go through a fucking roller coaster of emotions. You go through a lot of shit. Now you factor in, family things and this and that and bills and having a bad month on top of it. There's a lot of shit that goes on up here that you don't always get to say out loud. And so that's really good. And it's cool that you're able to take that and turn it into a positive because a lot of people don't. And it consumes people and it doesn't let them, be able to, not as many people can take that energy or, that negative energy or take that and turn it into fuel. And I think you've personally, just from having this conversation, I think you've done an incredible job at doing that. Thanks. And I don't think a lot of people can do that. So, cool. Congratulations for that first and foremost. I think just jumping in here, you wouldn't think that, right? Like, I think you've carried yourself very well and it might be a carrying, there might still be stuff going on behind the scenes, but I think that's, it's important to talk about it. And I think that's probably super influential on why you're where you are right now and where you're going to be in the next 5-10 years. It definitely is. It's very cool.
Can I just offer some tips for someone dealing with
sure, of course,
mental health problems? Yeah. So some things that like I've done, right? Like there's some things you can do on your own, and then there's also some things that take a little bit more courage, and you have to like talk to more people, have conversations that are uncomfortable. But if you want to start on your own, what you're gonna have to do is rewire your entire brain. So like anytime that you have a feeling, it's typically controlled by like one of a few things. Like I think there's 3 things that control emotions that dominate your mind. So it's either your focus or your language or your physiology. So the words you say, the way you stand, and the things that you think about, like the conscious thoughts you have. So I think those are the things that control it. So the things that you can do is like you can start saying affirmations to yourself in the mirror. And a key with affirmations is there has to be emotion behind it. If your body is doing one thing and your mind and your emotions are thinking another thing, you're literally just like putting two negative batteries together or two negative magnets together. It's not going to stick. Your body and your mind have to be aligned. So get into it. Be like, I am a leader. I am a beast in real estate. I have $25 million. Like,
how many times do you say that at the Tony Robbins event?
Oh my God, dude. We could go through it all day.
But it's because that shit works.
Yeah. So start, like, you can do that, and you can spend time, if you're very anxious, you can spend time meditating. So there's a lot of forms of meditation. I use the Headspace app or the Calm app. Those are really good apps. And you can do a 2-minute meditation, or you can do a 30-minute meditation. I've made my way up to about like 20 minutes. It's like starting to push me.
I fall asleep whenever I've tried longer than like 5-10 minutes. Dude, there's so much going on up here, and it's the reason why you have to meditate is when there's a lot going on up here. But what's your advice? I got a million things on my mind. I'm trying to sit down in the morning, just get into a nice little 5-6 minute meditation where my mind is just clear, but it can't do it. What's your advice?
So the apps will guide you very well. They're guided meditations. There's these men and women with like very like
soothing
voices that will talk to you. Take a deep breath. Like there's people like that guiding you. But if I didn't have $60 for the year to spend on an app like that, what I would do is
like YouTube or
the actual key, not like how to learn it, but the actual key itself is to catch it and come back to your breath, or like come back to your heartbeat. You want to have an anchor. So like, even if your anchor is like this, like some sort of physical movement, you just want to anchor back. So pretty much your thoughts are like cars and buses going by on a highway, and you're watching from the side. You can't stop them, but what you can do is choose what you focus on. So you pretty much acknowledge the thought, and it's going to fade away slowly. You can like compartmentalize it or put it in a cloud, visualize, and then come back to your breath. And like, all you're thinking about is like, that's it. Like, all you want to focus on is that, because like I said earlier, your breath is your presence and your breath is your life. So if you focus on your breath, you're going to be here, and you can only focus on one thing at a time, because we're not really that smart. We can only focus on one thing at a time. So those are just 2 tips. And then get your body into it. Change your physiology. Jump around. Hit yourself in the chest, dude. Like, clap your hands in the air. Stand taller. Like, sit up straight when you're in a chair. Like at dinner, when you're watching football, like, sit up straight. Like, pretend like this is your life and you're taking control of it. Like, those things are just going to make you feel more empowered. And you're going to start to dominate like some of those sad or anxious thoughts that you've been going through.
I think people are actually going to appreciate this part of the podcast, because like, I did not think we were going to go to this, but honestly, like,
full circle.
Honestly, it's good though, because like I don't even think about a lot of these type of things. It's good to see somebody like already successful like us thinking about it and like doing it, because it's like, oh shoot, maybe I should look into it more. I don't have much experience in that type of stuff. And like, I'm gonna go look it up now. I didn't even have to pay for the Calm app, for God's sakes.
We can have another conversation about this. I'm happy to help you guys out.
Yeah,
I'm blessed to have spent a lot of time to study my mind. And it goes back to what I said earlier, like, studying people is not only going to help you in business deal with other people, it's going to help you deal with yourself, because you're going to realize, why am I doing certain things? Like, again, what needs are not being met right now? What am I acting out of? Do I feel like I'm insignificant? You're going to ask yourself questions. And the more questions and thought-provoking you are with yourself, the more you're going to learn about yourself. And learning is where growth happens.
For sure. Yeah. It's like cold showers. People knock it, but bro, I've been doing it every single day for years.
I love that.
It's the cliche, the 5 a.m., the cold showers, but it's, they're things that, again, like you said, changes your physiology. When you get out of that, you're like, if I just got through the hardest part of my day, like, everything else from here is uphill. When it's 30 degrees outside of New Jersey and you're going in probably 50-degree water, if I had to guess, or 50. Well, I'm crazy. One of my apartments, I literally said, can you make the temperature colder, because it's not cold enough? I'm not getting the benefits physiologically, physically of it. And the maintenance guy was like, dude, in all of my 20 years of being in a building, nobody has ever asked me to make the temperature of the water colder. I've had hotter. I've never had anyone ask for it to go colder. And I'm like, you guys need to get more people that are on their physical, their mental all that stuff, health game, because it's sick when you can wake up. I mean, personally, like gym, after the gym, nice cold shower. The gym's the easy part. The waking up's the easy part. Cold shower's harder than all that shit. You sit through that for 2-3 minutes, fucking freeze your tits off. You get out, you're like, all right, I get.
It's hard. No, keep going. It's hard.
But you take on the rest of the day for sure. But I think it goes back to everything. I think the affirmations, that physiologically doing shit. Because a lot of people, I'll write down an affirmation. I'll say I am energetic. I am worth $20 million, whatever it is. But there's no action behind that. There's no physiological association with it. And so I think that's super important. I think that's a really good tip that I can take away. Many people listening can take away too. Oh my God. All right, I think we're starving.
I think that Tony Robbins says it all the time, man. He goes, "We're drowning in information and we're starving for wisdom." Isn't that crazy? Think about how much information is out there and how much is not true.
That's true.
You're looking for the truth, and with all these people trying to sell you things, it's really difficult to figure out what is true and what is not true. So I think you just touched on something amazing, though. Action. Action is so important. That book, Think and Grow Rich, confused the shit out of me, man. That was one of the first business books that I read, and I was like, I can just think about it and write it down and it'll happen. And it was like, nah, that doesn't happen. You need to take massive amounts of action towards the goals that you want to accomplish. And although it is important to manifest them and to continue to write your goals out and speak them into existence, if you don't do your plan that you plan to do, nothing is going to happen. And I can assure you of that.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's a good place to end it on actions.
Hell yeah.
If you're listening, stop listening and go take some action.
Go take something. Take what you fucking listen, get off your ass and go do something productive.
This was great. This was dude. Thank you. Like
awesome.
This is like the nicest apartment I've been in ever.
Yes, appreciate it.
No, I appreciate this a whole bunch. Like I hope people like learned a whole bunch from this too.
Yeah.
Definitely not your average e-com agency guy. He's a real estate mogul over here, and I'm sure you're gonna start selling a whole bunch of big deals soon. But
let's go.
Yeah, I think that's it, right?
Right.
Yeah, you
want to?
I think you should.
You want to wrap it up, and then I can do one thing.
No, you
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. Go for it.
So, do you guys want to know how I alter my physiology in the morning?
How?
We don't have to do it on camera if you want, but
No.
No. Do it.
But actually, do it on camera.
Do it.
Do it on camera.
You have to end up screaming though. That's the thing.
Are we gonna wake up?
We might have to turn the volume down a little bit.
No, all right. So I'll do it quiet. Get up. This is what I do. Ready? So Tony Robbins taught us this. He was leading us, and he would say, "Can this thing hear me?"
Yeah, probably.
He would say, "Make your move." Right? And he'd scream it and I scream it in the morning. And I go like, make your move, and just do something that makes you like empowered. So it'd be like, make your move. So people go like that or like that, right? And you're just gonna do like a big move. I'm gonna do it like 3 times, all right? Ready? Make your move. Make your move. Make your move. Dude, like you just fucking feel empowered. And then you go, say yes. And you go, yes. Yeah. And you're just like, yeah. And you scream yes. So like, there's just like basic things like that you can do to just get your energy up. It's a natural pre-workout.
I love it.
I'm telling you.
Fuck the coffee.
We just gotta
do is get up and scream.
Value on this. Yeah. We got free Tony Robbins right here.
Mental, physical, spiritual, verbal.
Awesome. Yes.
Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Where can people find you? People from New Jersey are probably watching this.
Social media accounts. Like what are your top 2 socials you're on that you want to? We're gonna link it in the description. Whole 9 yards.
First thing, my number is 973-632-5600. The easiest way to contact me is simply by calling me or texting me. I'm always responding there, like every 2 minutes. Social accounts are Hoboken Realtor on TikTok and Hoboken Realtor on Instagram and Matt Myles on LinkedIn.
That's a fire.
Nice handle.
Yeah.
Jeez, look at you.
Yeah, it's definitely a good handle. I
mean, it stood out to me when he commented on my comment.
Like he's famous.
Make sure you add him on Instagram. Call him. It sounds like he'll answer the phone for you too.
Yeah.
For us, make sure you like, subscribe, comment,
all that fun stuff. Share
Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening to. YouTube. This was a good one, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Support the guys.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Catch you in the next one.
Thank you. Catch you.
Oh yeah. That's full.